Welcome to the Dairy News and Views podcast, a production of the Iowa State University Extension and Outreach Dairy Team. Our podcast covers current educational, research, and industry tools available for your operation to manage healthy cows and calves while producing the highest quality dairy products. Thanks for joining us today on Dairy News and Views from the ISU Dairy Team. I'm Jen Bentley, Northeast Iowa Dairy Field Specialist, and I'm here today with my colleague Fred Hall from Northwest Iowa. And so welcome back to the podcast, Fred.
Glad to be here, Jen.
Yeah, so Fred, we have a busy upcoming month coming up here with National Dairy Month here in June. And so that's going to be our topic of discussion here today as we focus on National Dairy Month celebration. And of course, across the state in Iowa here, there's many opportunities to attend or help promote the dairy industry through the month of June. So we thought it was very fitting here today to invite our guests from the Iowa State Dairy Association and Midwest Dairy Association, Mitch Schultz and Cynthia Hamlett. So welcome to the podcast, Mitch and Cynthia. And to kick it off, why don't we have you introduce yourselves and tell us your roles with ISDA and the Midwest Dairy Association?
Well, I can start. So this is Mitch Schultz, work for both ISDA and Midwest Dairy. My role with the Iowa State Dairy Association is the executive director. The Iowa State Dairy Association, for those of you who don't know, that is our political voice for dairy farmers here in the state of Iowa. So we focus primarily on state issues, representing our dairy farmers and dairy processors down at Capitol Hill here in Iowa. We do work on some federal issues, but our primary focus maintains it at the state level. Then for Midwest Dairy, I am a farmer relations manager here in Iowa, and our role with Midwest Dairy is to go out and promote dairy products on behalf of our dairy farmers to build sales and trust. We do that through farmer relations by meeting with those dairy farmers, helping them understand how we're spending their checkoff dollars, how it benefits them, and then also activating those farmers when there's a great opportunity for them to get involved and be at events and meet with consumers. We find the appropriate dairy farmer to meet with those consumers, and we also help provide resources to those farmers. I'll turn it over to Cynthia.
Thanks, Mitch. My name is Cynthia Hamlett, and similar to Mitch, I have the double hats that I wear. First off, with the Associate Director with the Iowa State Dairy Association, and then I'm also Farmer Relations Manager here in Iowa with Midwest Dairy. And Mitch kind of gave a great overview as to what Farmer Relations stands for, but we both have some additional tasks on our plate as well. For me, I help with some of the youth and college age leaders aspects that we have with Midwest Dairy, including the intern program. We have Iowa Dairy Ambassadors across the state of Iowa. And then we also have a dairy experience and agricultural leadership program for some of our younger dairy farmers. And then in addition to that, I also am in charge of our state fair food operations. So lots going on there with the American Dairy Association of the Midwest, but kind of take charge in that with my Midwest Dairy Farmer Relations role. So lots of things going on, and we try to tackle everything in regard to farmer relations and policy here in Iowa.
Okay, before we get into the upcoming events and promotions that'll be happening this month, give us an overview of Midwest Dairy Association and how the checkoff works.
I can kind of start with how the checkoff works. Maybe that's good to explain some of the structures. So basically, for every 100 pounds of milk that a dairy farmer sells, 15 cents comes to the checkoff. 10 cents of that stays here at Midwest Dairy, where we work on local promotions. We do send 2.5 cents of our 10 cents to Dairy Management and Company to develop a unified messaging plan that's used across the United States. And then out of that 15 cents, 5 cents goes to the National Dairy Board. So that's kind of how we get our revenue to do all the projects we do, whether that be work in schools, the retail sector, or working directly with farmers to once again build sales and trust for our consumers. Some of the things that we can do within the checkoff organization, we can help with consumer education, nutrition product and food safety research. We can do some crisis management things. in building and maintaining that public confidence. We can do some limited product marketing depending on how that works. We can work on efforts to increase human consumption, and then we can provide information and help educate the government and policy leadership upon their request. Some of the things we can't do branded advertising. We can't disparage against other food or agricultural products. We cannot actually use checkoff dollars to increase on-farm production, and we can't use checkoff dollars that directly target farm or retail pricing. One thing that we get asked quite a bit is why we can't do things for pet consumption of dairy products. And when the checkoff was created, we are prohibited from doing non-human consumption promotion. So we can't work in the pet food industry. And then I did mention a little bit ago that we can provide information to our educators, our government, and our policy, but we cannot directly influence government or policy. So we can't sway them when it comes to voting on particular items.
And then I'll get a little bit into some of the details about our location and our background about Midwest Dairy. So we actually cover 9.5 states in the Midwest, including Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, here in Iowa, Illinois, Missouri, Kansas, Arkansas, and then half of Oklahoma. And Midwest Dairy has predecessors that go back over 100 years, but we, as Midwest Dairy, started in early 2000. And then our area currently has around 39 million consumers, with some of the bigger locations near Minneapolis, St. Paul, Des Moines, Chicago, St. Paul, or St. Louis, and Kansas City. And with all those consumers, we have around 5,800 dairy farm families that we serve as checkoff staff for Midwest Dairy. And then getting into the vision a little bit about what Midwest Dairy's vision and mission are. We are here to help bring dairy to life for a better world. And knowing how many choices consumers have, we want to encourage them to enjoy dairy products and help them come back to dairy every time that they go to the grocery store. And then our mission, following right along with the vision, is to work with others to give consumers an excellent dairy experience. And so we want to help provide exciting flavors for them, convenient products, memorable experiences, and credible information. So like I said, they come back and enjoy real dairy products on a daily basis.
Okay, most of us grew up with June Dairy Month. That was part of our summer events. How did the National Dairy Month come about? I know it started back in the 30s, but how has it evolved?
I can kind of start from the beginning and walk through and give a brief overview. So in 1937, as a grocery and milk promotion, what we know as June Dairy Month was semi-created. This was established by chain stores, and the theme of that was keep youthful, drink milk. That continued for 2 years. In 1937 and 38, this was called National Milk Month. It ran from June 10th to June 11th. And this was really established to help stabilize the markets during the peak demand or peak production. So we wanted to make sure that we had things out there, campaigns running to help utilize some of that milk, especially during those peak production times. Jump ahead to 1939. This is when the National Dairy Council stepped in and started helping promoting this cause of promoting dairy products in a whole. So it became June Dairy Month in 1939. We jump ahead a little bit further. In 1955, the American Dairy Association really took over the campaigns and made June Dairy Month more of a campaign across the entire United States and unified some of the messaging that went along with that campaign. In the recent years, we're going to jump ahead kind of the current times, there's been a movement to move away from June Dairy Month and call it National Dairy Month, which is kind of unique because you jump all the way back to 1937 and 1938. It was National Milk Month. Now it is called National Dairy Month, and it's a celebration that goes on across the entire United States, out on farms and local communities. And it really brings dairy to the forefront and helps our consumers see dairy or for what it is, a delicious product that should be part of their diet.
And Cynthia, I think all of us here on the call here today would say, growing up, we've been involved in some of these dairy promotion events. And then now in your careers within dairy industry, you are still involved with a lot of these events. So can you give our audience some examples of certain events that happen here in Iowa?
Of course, yeah. And like Mitch mentioned previously, a lot of times our roles are activating farmers or encouraging them to reach out to consumers and help share dairy stories. So we wanted to highlight a couple of the events that have happened in the past and are still ongoing today. So we have quite a few open houses. It might be a local county group or a specific dairy farmer that hosts consumers out to their farm, and they have a meal. A lot of the time the products are donated. And generally, after the tour and the learning portion, the day can wrap up with some ice cream. And so lots of good opportunities for consumers to interact with animals on farm, and then also learn about kind of the steps along the process of a calf growing into a cow, and then milk production and what they eat and everything that comes about. Some other things that happen on farm too with the breakfast on the farms. They have lots of different stations, and one to highlight notably the NICC Breakfast on the Farm. Lots of great attendance each year with the breakfast there. And then we have some local county princesses that get involved and do a reading station and some quizzes and making butter, among lots of other things. And then one other thing that we wanted to highlight as an example that has happened in the past is Moo at the Zoo. And even though it wasn't hosted specifically in Iowa, I know that there was plenty of Iowa visitors there at the Omaha Zoo, where we were bringing dairy to life at an unexpected place that consumers probably would never think of being at the zoo. And a dairy farmer there locally in Nebraska brought some heifers of each breed, and consumers were able to feed them hay and pet them and just enjoy being around the dairy animals that they might not see on a farm. So getting out and giving consumers an excellent experience, and that includes helping them learn about where their dairy products come from, and also just learning about how things happen on the farm and getting them to the farm are just a few examples of things that happen within the state and in our region as Midwest Dairy.
Yeah, so lots of good events going on. And we also talk about regional partners and how we help, move some of those dairy products. Can you help explain to our audience who those regional partners might be and how they help our industry?
Yeah, so I won't go through all of our regional partners, but know that we have retail and food service partners across basically the entire Midwest. And then if you branch in the DMI, we have partners that go all the way across the United States, including some other parts of the world. So here in this region, I'll just focus on Iowa. Some of the partners that we work directly with: Come and Go, Fairway, Casey's, Pizza Ranch, Hy-Vee, and many others. And what we do in those locations, we help provide them some consumer insight data that really helps them refine what they're doing in their stores, what products they're serving, what's going to help them sell the most product and move the most product through their locations. The idea for us is, number one, we want to give those consumers that excellent experience, but our main goal is to help move those products through the location, and ensuring that those stores have the right products on their shelves really helps to increase the sales through those overall stores. But we do several other things with those retailers too. We look at product placement and making sure that the right products are there. And then we do additional campaigns where you could go in, Casey's, for example, you could go in and buy a slice of pizza and get a milk for free with it. A campaign like that not only helps increase the amount of dairy that's going through that store, it gives incentive for those consumers to buy some more Casey's products. Gives them incentive to consume more dairy products in general. Some of the partnerships that we've had directly in June, we've done charitable giving. So at Come and Go, for every gallon of milk sold, $1 was donated to No Kid Hungry. We've done website banners. So Coburn's, we really worked with them to do website banners that showcase sustainability and showcase dairy stories. That way, when consumers went to that website, they were able to see dairy right in the front. and it helped put dairy in their mind as they started that process of shopping. We know more and more consumers are shopping online, so these type of partnerships are critical to make sure that dairy is something that they see right when they get on to the website or through their ordering apps, which with Casey's, we've worked with them to showcase dairy as you went onto the app and decided that you were going to order some items from their store. It showcased that dairy was fresh and available through their locations. Each June, we run several different campaigns with some of our retail partners to either promote dairy and telling dairy's story, or to run different campaigns to give discounts to dairy or move more dairy products. Since we're before June here, those campaigns have not started, so I can't dive into them. But if you're a dairy farmer listening, be watching for our email updates. Go to our website and you can learn about some of those campaigns that are going on as they get kicked off. But unfortunately, I can't dive into those campaigns until they officially get started.
Wow, what a great roundup of things that are available and being done with our partners. What resources are available to consumers and producers who may be hosting an event?
Thanks for asking, Fred. We have a lot of great resources available, and I would start by going to our website, midwestdairy.com. This is your one-stop shop where you can find infographics. You can find all of our programs, from grant programs to our youth programs, whether that be Princess Program or scholarships or intern programs. You can find recipes on there. Infographics are a key piece. Those are either across our region or you have state-specific infographics. Looking on our website under the For Farmers tab, that's where you can find our Undeniably Dairy grant. For Iowa this year, we have depleted most of that funding, so grant resources are very limited, but we've provided a tremendous amount of resources out to those farmers, where a farmer or a farm group can apply in for up to $3,000 in funding to host an event that has direct consumer farmer interaction. That way that consumer gets hands-on experience with a dairy farmer. And once again, that's up to $3,000 in funding. We also have food pantry and school grants on there. So visit our website, go under the For Farmers tab, and you can look at all the criteria under the Undeniably Dairy grants. One of the key pieces I want to push out resource-wise, especially to our farmers, is the promo center. You can go on here and get things such as coloring books, fidget toys, Undeniably Dairy eye black, great things that go to the younger audiences out there. This is a resource that's available to you. If you pay checkoff, all of the resources available in the promo center are completely free to you. You can order those materials, either use them during National Dairy Month as tools to give away out in your community, or you can use it throughout the rest of the year where you could go to daycares or your local school or even events you're having on your farm and have those resources available so you can hand those educational pieces out to our consumers and give them that great experience.
A lot of great resources there, Mitch. And I think, making sure our farmers know that those resources are out there is very important as they start promoting and, having these events. And so as we're talking about events, I know Fred and I are going to be busy helping with the ISU Dairy Open House coming up next week, but maybe you or Cynthia could help us or walk us through the events that are coming up in June.
Yeah, I can go ahead and do that. And there's quite a long list. But I'll give a brief rundown of all the events that we have on our calendar. And if you happen to know of any, feel free to send those our way and we can put those on our website for everyone to look at. So June 5th, which is a Sunday, we have the Jones County Ag Breakfast at the Jones County Fairgrounds. June 7th and 8th is the Fredericksburg Dairy Days. Like you mentioned, Jen, June 10th is the ISU Dairy Farm Open House in Ames. June 11th, on that Saturday, is the Jackson-Clinton County Ice Cream Social near Clinton, Iowa. June 15th, we have the Western Iowa Dairy Alliance June Dairy Farm Open House, and that will be at the Skelling Dairy Farm near Sioux Center, Iowa. June 18th is Hilltop Dairy Days with Madison Scooball and her family near Mount Pleasant, Iowa. June 25th is the Breakfast on the Farm near Kalmar. Moving into a couple events that we have in coordination with RAGBRAI, July 28th through the 31st, WW Homestead near Walk On will be having an open house on their near their location there. And then July 29th, there will be a Dairy RAGBRAI stop in downtown West Union, Iowa, to celebrate and refuel some of those bikers that are participating in RAGBRAI. So a lot going on. And if, like I mentioned previously, if you happen to have any other dates that need to go on our calendar, feel free to send those our way. And if you're interested or need a list of those, feel free to visit our Iowa Dairy website at iowadairy.org to see more details as they come up with those events that are going on within the state.
Mitch and Cynthia, thank you for all the great information you shared today. As we conclude, any last take-home messages you want to share with our listeners?
Well, I'll start here. I think what I'd like to share is there's a lot of resources available. Make sure you utilize those resources. Myself and Cynthia are always available for a phone call, and we can help talk through any issues or any ideas that you may have. And know that National Dairy Month, it's starting here real soon, and a lot of events are going on. Cynthia mentioned those. If you don't want to have an event on your farm, that's perfectly fine. But there are ways for you as a dairy farmer or a dairy advocate to get involved. I know a lot of these open houses need volunteers. They need help staffing locations and meeting with those consumers. So if you have free time, check in with myself or Cynthia, or reach out to the Western Iowa Dairy Alliance or the Northeast Iowa Dairy and Ag Foundation and ask them how you can get involved. And then once again, it is National Dairy Month. It's happening here soon. Make sure you get out and enjoy some delicious dairy products and share that dairy message.
Yeah, and I would just add too that, like Mitch said, we're always here to listen to an idea and try to be a sounding board for you and share the resources that we have available to you. Or if you mention something that might spark an idea with us, and we can kind of help you push your event, or reach a school or a local library or something like that. So like Mitch said, go out and enjoy wholesome dairy products for the month of June, and maybe throughout the rest of the year as well.
Well, you two brought up some very good points about enjoying dairy products. So I don't think we can leave this podcast without each of us sharing what your favorite dairy product is. So Mitch or Cynthia, do you want to share that out with the group?
I can go. Mine would most definitely be chocolate milk, but I'm kind of special in a way of I like to mix them half and half. So I put chocolate in half the glass and half a glass of white milk. It makes it delicious.
Well, I may be a little biased on this one, but I'm going to put a plug in for our ice cream booth at the Iowa State Fair. So if you are down there, stop by our ice cream booth. It's located by the dairy parlor. But my favorite product comes right out of that booth. It's a strawberry shake. It's absolutely delicious. We use Highland ice cream for that. So if you are down, stop by and you can try my personal favorite product.
We just had a family get together over Memorial Day, and root beer floats. Man, were they good.
Well, they all sound really good. And I would have to say ice cream is probably a favorite. And it always seems to be when my family or my kids are betting on something, we bet on ice cream. So we're all winning at that point with ice cream. So any flavor there. Sure want to thank both Mitch and Cynthia and Fred for being on the call here today. And want to thank you for sharing out the information about National Dairy Month.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, we appreciate the time.
So thanks for joining us today, and we look forward to visiting with you on the next Dairy News and Views from ISU. This institution is an equal opportunity provider. For the full non-discrimination statement or combination inquiries, go to www.extension.iastate.edu/diversity/ext.